This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 471, recorded on December 3rd, 2020. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way in your own news reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a very beautiful, Bellevue, Nebraska. I think we've had some a string of nice weather. Hey, I'm
I mean, 40s and sunny. I'll take it in December, late November. It's been a nice little string. I'll take it. Putting up Christmas lights, not as bad when it's this warm in December.
No, not bad. Well, you know where the weather's really good. Andrew Morris is down on the other side of the planet. It's spring for you guys, right? Things are pretty good.
Yeah, call it summer. We've already had 40+ degree days. So what's that? 100 Fahrenheit. So today's a very nice 80-ish degrees.
All right, things are going well. We'll catch up with you here in a second. Christian's out in Maryland, and Christian, how's the weather in your neck of the woods?
We're chilly, mid-30s. Taking out trash is getting a bit frosty, but nothing that the Buffalo Blood isn't used to. So,
yeah, you'll get soft eventually.
It's already started. It's pretty unfortunate. I got to be honest.
Good to see both of you guys. Of course, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary tonight of Home Gadget Geeks. It'll be kind of a regular show. We'll have a little bit of nostalgia kind of associated with it. We got some call-in stuff. We're going to do a beer pick here in just a second. But Andrew, Christian, good to have you back. Let me bring that up just for folks who were talking about it in pre-show. The very first post. In fact, if you want to head out to the Average Guy, if you want to see this, it's not the easiest thing in the world to find. But if you want to head out to the AverageGuy.tv, and then it's /HT, because we started with Home Tech. So this thing was called Home Tech for, I don't know, first 100 episodes, I think. HT001 will get you there, and a great opportunity to kind of see. If you want to hear, we played this in the pre-show, if you want to hear the intro back then. I flirted with the idea, Mike, of doing the old intro, but doing it in the new voice kind of thing. And then I thought, nah. And I also flirted with the idea of having you do the intro. I think next week on our 10-year and one, I think you're going to have to do the intro.
I think I could do it just from memory. I think it's just ingrained in my head right now. Okay, but back then, I still see that you had the Average Guy tag on there. So did you have more than one show back then, or did you just know that you were going to start doing more than one show, so you made a network instead of just having one website?
Yeah, Andrew kind of went along on the ride with me in those days. Christian, Cyber Frontiers came out of this kind of this. Andrew was Spartan Radio was one who used to like to do the intro to Spartan Radio.
You found Spartan Radio, and, hosted by the man.
Yeah, what should I say? It was the Rad Racing Network. You found.
And their dodgy website that I knocked up in about 20 minutes using some bit of crapware that I found on the internet.
Well, we got that rolling. Mike, we had fitness tech for a while. I think I did 30 or 40 episodes of a fitness tech podcast. I did a financial tech podcast that I think I went a couple years on that, 3 or 4 years maybe. I got some folks to help me out on the financial tech. And then what else? I think that's that.
So you had a network from the beginning. You knew you were going to do multiple shows.
Rich's random podcast generator, Rich O'Neill.
How many did Rich do?
I want to say 50, I think.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, I think we'd get together on Saturdays on and just do hangouts. People could join. It was to talk about anything that you wanted to. It was the idea.
It was literally random, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was the idea. Is that like if the conversation was good, we just rip it into a podcast and publish it. And
most of them were.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
They were pretty good. Yeah, we kind of made that work. Lots of folks, of course. If you're new to this podcast in the last couple of years, this all came out of Dave McCabe's home server show. So maybe I think Dave started that 08, I think, and I joined him early 09 with Zadler and Chris, and then I think I went a year and some change, and I wanted
you went rogue.
Yeah, I did go rogue. I wanted to do something different, and so I approached Christian and you and Brian Burgess in that day. In fact, Mike, the intro that we have now, the guitar riff is Brian Burgess. He wrote that. I mean, like he performed it first on the guitar, and then he added drums and a bass to it. And I've just never not done that. And big thanks to Brian for doing that for us. But back in those days, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know if Home Gadget Geeks home tech before, guys, has really changed that much in the 10 years we've been doing this. We still get in here. I mean, Mike, you've been here 5?
Yeah, 5 years now.
5. So the format's changed a little bit. We still have guests that we have on. We do miss Christian's Corner. Christian, that is one of those things. We moved Christian's Corner kind of to Cyber Frontiers, right?
Became Cyber
Yeah, other Jim
Frontiers,
asked,
for
wait,
sure.
is this Christian's new corner?
Looks like
Yes.
Christian's been banished to
I'm
me.
I'm working on the styling. Don't worry. I definitely have the most vanilla look of the advanced podcast walls that have formed over the years. But it is certainly a corner. It has 3 dimensions to it, as you can see. So, and I have a dimension in front of me you can't see that makes it a box. So it's definitely a corner. And I don't know, Christian's Corner wasn't always 100% content that outtaked to Cyber Frontiers. I remember we did some college hunting and some other off-topic brands in that little segment, and I think people enjoyed it. So
yeah, no, it's a good.
You used to come up with some really good little quirky stuff that I'd never heard of.
yeah, and in general, Cyber Frontiers kind of became a lot of quirky stuff put together. But yeah, there were just so many tools and little gadgets for Windows at the time that I was fascinated with, and especially with the home server carryover stuff that we were doing, there was just always something to talk about.
John's talking about the college show is the most impactful of my life. I think Christian, he's referring to the one I sat down and interviewed you right after you got accepted to the University of Maryland.
Yep.
And I quizzed you. I'll be honest, I learned a ton about the process too from you and all that. My kids were just starting to kind of get into that space. That was a pretty impactful show.
And it's actually amazing how relevant it still is today. Most universities are still using Common App in the United States, and the process. I mean, there's some things that have changed with, a lot of schools not accepting standardized scores this year because of COVID or whatnot. But by and large, the fundamentals in that show largely didn't change. So I feel like it has stood the test of time so far.
Well, we brought back really weird memories with Common App when you said them, like, oh, I remember some painful nights sending in late applications, and that was awful.
Yeah.
We do need to break into a beer real quick. Eric Janowski sent us Hop Cloud. Sorry, Christian, I didn't get one of these to you. Andrew, there was no way I was going to get one of these to you. But Eric, so you guys are welcome to break out on. But Hop Cloud, it's called a hazy IPA. It goes with this voicemail. So let's bring this in. And Dave left this voicemail. Maybe. Of course, now when you wanted to play, it won't. Okay, 1 second. You guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I didn't totally lock up. All right, hold on. Let's refresh the page. Mike, while we're doing that.
Yeah.
Let's open
I cracked mine early. Sorry.
Okay.
I realized that pre-show I thought we were doing, so I cracked it.
Yeah, what do you think so far?
Very hoppy, which is something I really like. Really good. Where's this one from again? Trying to find San Diego. So brewed and canned in San Diego.
See if I can get
7%.
Hey, Jim. Dave Canyon here. The guy who tortured you during Podcast Movement 2017 in Anaheim, California with his crappy Android phone. Hey, by the way, did you know that according to Google, the 10-year of marriage is marked with tin or aluminum? Both materials represent the durability and flexibility needed to sustain a loving union. So this might be a good time to crack open a can of beer. Congratulations, Jim.
All right, Dave. Thanks for sending that in. We got a few more that we'll do.
Look at the head on that thing, Jim.
Well,
you need to learn how to pour a beer.
I dropped it before I set it up here, and
Oh, really?
it's going to be a second.
Dropped it or shook the crap out
gonna
of it.
be a
One or the
second.
other.
It's very possible I did both on that one. Mike, you said very hoppy.
Very happy. I mean, the Hop Cloud is definitely an apt name for it. 7% alcohol, really good. But just extremely hoppy. Like it's really all you taste when you drink it. So if you like that, should be right up your alley, and I do. It reminds me, there was a beer in Omaha called the Hopluia, and that I loved. It was like the beer I drank all through college. It was my favorite whenever I went to a bar. And this is like bringing back good memories of that Hopluia beer.
Yeah. No, I like it. Andrew, you a hoppy fan or not?
I don't drink a lot of beer anymore.
You,
I sort of.
you have to
I went.
revoke your Australian card? Like, is that even? Can you even say that? That's like
there's
somebody
so much.
from England saying they don't like boiled food. Like, can you? You can't say those kinds of things.
Well, you can. Look, I'm probably drinking more ciders these days, to be honest.
Yeah.
And hard ciders, so sort of your 17% type cider.
Ooh.
There's some really nice ones brewed into or put together in Tasmania that feature quite frequently in the fridge.
Christian, what about you? You got a preference?
I'm still mostly in the IPAs, and Maryland has a lot of good local breweries for that. Jailbreak Brewery is one of the better ones that has 4 flavors that you can get in a multi-pack. So,
all right, good enough. Well, Eric, thanks for sending that beer to us. If you want to send us your local beer, you can do that. Don't do it outside of the United States. Okay, let's just be reasonable about this. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and I will send you my address if you want to send them. Eric, thanks for sending those on. This is one of his favorites, and we appreciate that as well. I should mention, just real quick, if you haven't yet and you want to start a website, and we got the guy here, we're going to talk a little bit about the infrastructure of Maple Grove Partners. Can't have Christian on not talk about this. But if you haven't bought a domain yet, head out to Hover. Do it now. Just do it right now. TheAverageGuy.tv/hover. Even if you're driving, start typing it in your car. I'm just kidding. TheAverageGuy.tv/hover. You get $2 off your first domain, and then just some great domain hosting as well. And then while you're at it, head over to maplegrovepartners.com. Christian, do we have some space at Maple Grove Partners? Would that be like, could you take on somebody at this point?
We have space. We're building more space. We're continuing to build out our second data site, and we're just going to keep rocking and rolling with it. So we're having fun.
Pretty great, except when you have a website that has a weird, funky WordPress thing going on. Which,
yeah, there's that.
Which theaverageguy.tv seems to. I think we may have isolated it down to a plugin. Maybe, I don't know. We'll get it figured out
with WordPress.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, now I know that's shocking that we're having WordPress problems. So if you want plans, are they still $10? Can I get in for $10?
And the email hosting is fantastic too. So I still do my ham radio strip through there, and primarily use it because I've been bad at writing posts. I primarily use it for all the email. So I have my Collison as my domain and host my email over there. Works great. Have it on all my devices. It's good service.
Yeah, super good. You can get it today. Head out to maplegrovepartners.com and ways to sign up right there. Plan stars as little as $10. maplegrovepartners.com. Our Discord group has been rocking lately. If you're not out there right now, you probably should. TheAverageGuy.tv/Discord. Bust Out has been particularly active in that group, and he left the message as well. Let's see if we can hear from him.
Hey, Jim. This is Bust Out. I wanted to thank you for not only entertaining us all these years, but also for building up a community. It's nice to see how everyone has come together around what you build up. May you find joy in your creation for many years to come.
That's always nice to hear from folks, isn't it? I mean, we spend so much time talking to them online. So bust out. Thanks for doing that. Christian, let's talk about the data center there, or your data center, what we call Maple Grove Partners. Give us a quick rundown while we got you. What are you guys doing?
Yeah. So we're in the process right now of working on something that's pretty unique for what, many would consider either some combination of shared hosting or virtual private hosting, where we're really looking to offer the hybrid experience of high end for high availability without going to a higher end package. So we're right now building our architecture so that if the data site where your particular environment goes down, it's going to automatically be replicated and traffic shifted to a secondary site. So it's all transparent to you as the user. But on the back end, we're basically making sure that your stuff stays up. And this works in both ways, right? So as we're expanding capacity and getting more customers, we're able to expand the sites where we want to host customers' primary data and then shift that and make sure it's replicated to a secondary site so that at a moment's notice, if there's a disaster recovery situation, we automatically flip over. That's taken a lot of evolution. I mean, when we started Maple Grove, it was really actually centered around this community, right? We wanted to offer a platform for podcasters, and that's still one of our main use cases, although there are several others. But what started as buying a bunch of old servers off of eBay and getting the internet connection in and kind of evolving that from a test lab, so to speak, that ran the average guy to an actual platform for customers that's highly available. That's really where we're going forward. We're very much focused on knowing who's on our platform, welcoming new people in our platform. We don't like having kind of the 1-800 stingy feel to it. So I personally interact with a lot of people that come onto our platform, and we really just make sure that you have what you need to get your job done, nothing more, nothing less. But the more that we do put in is around that security, high availability, and reliability. And we continue to focus on that going forward, both with new hardware that we're landing, as well as pretty much gigabit fiber going out to the World Wide Web. So if you think about what you would get on your typical shared hosting, no one's going to give you kind of that unsaturated bandwidth. We take care of blocking some of the bad things that might get to your site before your site's firewall has to deal with it. And we're also kind of strategically located in a place where the latencies for people who want to host the United States is pretty fantastic, right? 90% of the world's internet traffic runs through the Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia area. Our latency to one of the nearest major telcos is about 4 milliseconds on our fiber line. So it's not a bad network backbone you're getting for $10 a month. And then on top of that, we're making sure that, whatever type of app it is you want to host, whether it's something that would be on a LAMP stack or otherwise, we're going to make sure that you have the experience and the mechanisms you need to run that. So
Christian, when I was at your place, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, I saw EX495 sitting.
Those are like the dead skeleton, dead bodies that will just like follow me around. They still multiply in size, even though, yeah.
But you had one. You've got one in the basement. I saw. How are you doing? So for your own home, we're all home server guys, right? We came out of that. Andrew, I'm going to ask you how you're doing this as well. What are you doing for your own home storage at this point? Certainly, you got this infrastructure; it's business related. But how are you doing your own home storage backup?
Yeah, so it's separate infrastructure. We maintain a lot of different SAN devices, and whether it's an iSCSI or even in some cases a fiber channel, I kind of have two major SANs that are, we could lose multiple drives on them and not have an issue. And those are available over a VPN. So wherever I'm at, whether it's on my cell phone, I can recall data from my machines, or whether it's, from one side of a VPN tunnel or another. It's very much kind of a converged home network. It's getting cheaper to do actually more at scale. I mean, you look at the cost of what it takes to throw in a bunch of 12 terabyte spinners. You literally don't have to change the number of running computers or the amount of power you're using to do it, to have 5 or 6 times as much storage as what you did when we first started this podcast. So that aspect has been really incredible. I must say, with respect to the HP EX 495s, our affectionate name for them has been toasters. And the reason for that is because they run as warm as a toaster does when you're cooking your bagel in the morning. And it has also cooked a fair number of hard drives. So I have now on our 6th hard drive that we've lost that was in one of those devices. And if you compare it to anything else that's in a more enterprise chassis, you just can't compare the hardware drive failure rates. Now, the drives that I had in those toasters were Seagate drives, probably weren't the best of drives in the world at the time. But that said, I have this fond place in my heart for what the concept was and what the possibilities were with that chassis. But the case design and the airflow probably never really got ironed out to where it should have been.
The audience, the old audience here that was been from the beginning is just killing that. They're like, they love those boxes. Those 495s were great. How much storage do you think like when you think about what you need to store for data, Christian? What's that requirement now? Do you think local?
It's stupid. I mean, I'm always almost full on my 2 terabyte hard drive locally. And so just for my personal needs, I probably need around 20 terabytes in a given notice. That doesn't maybe necessarily include every single photo or video archive or other project I'm working on. But if I were to talk about, the bare essentials, somewhere in that 20 terabyte range.
Yeah, which doesn't seem too ridiculous anymore. Andrew, when you think about what are you doing for home storage these days? How are you doing?
So I've still got a home server. No, seriously.
So there's still some to do, by the way. I've heard.
Yeah, look, my 2003 based home server still runs after a fashion if I turn it on, which I do need to get some stuff off it. I've got a Synology DS918 Plus with 3 8 terabyte drives in it. C8 Iron Wolf Pros. They're not the quietest drive in the world, but they seem to have a good mean time between failures. I'm using probably using about 3 terabytes at the moment. That's downloaded movie and TV content. Most of our photos go to the cloud, being Dropbox and Google.
What OS are you using on the server?
Runs its own, so it's running the Synology. It's just I think it's a Linux kernel of some shape or form.
Okay.
And it, I got over the whole fact of having to massage it and log into it and patch it and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this sends me an email if it's got an update, and I'll log into it, I apply it. I've got 4 or 5 Docker containers running to grab TV shows that we watch and things like that automatically. So the kids turn on the Kodi box, and the TV shows they watch are index up automatically and tell them that there's a new episode to watch, and they go and watch it.
Hot spare on those 3? two data. And
so it runs their own file system, BT something or other, FRS I think it is. I haven't got it set up for a hot spare, but it gives you enough notice if you're going to lose one. It uses smart off the drives. And I think a 8 terabyte out here is about $300 at the moment. So I probably should buy one and throw it in it as a spare, but
just have it. It's kind of depends.
The longer it runs, the better chance of it failing as well. So,
Mike, I just reset up my Unraid box. I had taken it down for something, and then I was super surprised how easy it was to take that flash drive, put it back in that computer, just fire it up, and it's back. Basically,
and you could move all those hard drives to new hardware as long as you have that USB stick, and it'll fire right back up like it was. You might have to remap some network, but I love that. See, I've moved that around twice since I started using Unraid when just certain parts failed, and then it works well.
I put some smaller drives in. It needed to be. I had to reformat some things. I had to rebuild parity. So I had some work that I needed to do. How are you? What are you using this week?
Yeah, right. Literally this week. No, I'm still on Unraid as well. I don't think I'll ever leave Unraid just because it's the perfect, I'm not a huge, I'm not a developer. I don't know code. I don't know all that stuff. So for me, Unraid's just dead simple. And the point and click, the GUI does enough for me. And right now I have 20 terabytes in there, about half full. So 10 terabytes. My usage always just depends on if I'm in my swing of, am I making content or not? Am I making YouTube comment? Am I doing videos? Am I not? But then on this computer here, I have 3 terabytes, 2 of which are just devoted to games, because games take up a lot of space. But for me, everything's self-hosted though. So far in Unraid, I'm still running Nextcloud, which is our whole family, and then some also some of my wife's family are using our Nextcloud instance, and everyone's photos back up through Nextcloud. So Nextcloud hosts all those photos. That's how we do photo backup, in addition to our iPhones just backing up to iCloud. And so everything backs up to that one Unraid box, and it tends to work out really well. And then we back up offsite the critical stuff. But most of that 10 terabytes is Plex, right? It's movies, TV, everything like that. And a little bit of it is actually, I send some of my security footage over there as well.
Well, and Andrew brings up a good point. You know, we think about Mike and miss him in this area as we talk about Unraid.
Yeah.
He of course was a big Unraid. Mike Howard is who we're talking about, big Unraid supporter. We lost him early here, I think April of this year, right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Not able. I was hoping, I knew, you know, we've had him on the show a couple times, and I knew with the cancer that he had that it was going to be sooner than later, and I was really hoping to make the funeral down in Atlanta. And though we were in full lockdown, so it was probably April in those days that I couldn't make it. Certainly, Mike, a big fan of the show, and we miss that guy dearly. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, one thing I was going to mention real quick on Unraid. You know, we had John, right, from Lime Tech on a while ago, and he was talking about the beta of 6.9. Their latest beta was just like, it took everyone by surprise. They included GPU use in Docker. So remember how we had that conversation of there was this whole second version of Unraid that people were running, which they liked, but they didn't like. They just all of a sudden wrapped that right into the new release of the beta, which was extremely shocking, but really cool, because now you have full support and you can be on the actual Unraid version. I just had to throw that in, because I know a lot of people in our community were waiting for that exact thing for Plex transcoding. If you're running all that in Docker, now you can take use of your GPU if you have one in there.
I need to contact him and get him back on the show.
We do, especially with that big announcement. I'm like, hey, you were holding back. He probably knew that was coming. Right? It was probably hard for him to have that conversation, knowing all that was coming down the pipe. Andrew,
you got some guests there, a live studio audience for us?
Yeah, the live studio audience is showing absolutely no interest in what I'm doing at the moment.
They're just napping. I want to play another call. We got a bunch in this week, by the way. Appreciate you guys doing that. And I want to switch gears a little bit. So have a listen to this.
We can't hear it if you can, Jim.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that was why there was three blank looks in you.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate dead air.
Yeah, well, I didn't know whether to speak up sooner or later if you're waiting for it to load.
No, I thought I had shared the. Okay, well, hold on. We'll do that. That's funny. I appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah.
So we'll try it again. This is Brian. Here we go. It takes a second for him to come in, so we'll let him come in here.
Hi, this is Brian from Arizona. Just want to say I love the show. Listened to it for a while, and you guys always are providing great advice, great tips. Always love seeing new gadgets, and really giving me confidence to help build my smart home and get it going. So thanks. Keep up the great work.
Back in the day, we did a home server show meetup, and Kyle Wilcox was there. We were talking about hard drives and storage space, and he won a Drobo that I think I had in my possession, and I'd left a drive in it, and it's just a funny story. So listen to Kyle.
Hey, Jim, this is Kyle Wilcox. Congratulations on 10 years. Thanks for all the podcasts and the community, letting me come on your show, all the meetups, and that extra hard drive. I've had fun, made friends, and learned a lot. I also want to make sure to leave some Drobo $ here. See ya.
Now, I kind of missed Andrew. You were around for those days, right? The Drobo $signs in the chat room. Yeah. I had left the one for every time. Tim Black was the originator of that. I had left a 1 terabyte hard drive in that Drobo, and it shipped out. And I remember Dave or Kyle took off, and it was like, oh, in the day, and 1 terabyte drive was like a pretty big drive. in those
Flip
days.
a
So we
coin,
don't
yeah.
even. Andrew, you said you got 3 8 TB drives. I don't think we even think, Christian, if you were to think about the minimum size hard drive you'd buy right now, what do you think that would be?
A spinner or solid?
Let's say a spinner.
12.
Bare minimum 3. But I mean, realistically, I haven't bought anything.
That makes me
less
feel a
than
little
8
bit better because I
terabytes in
literally
a
just
while,
grabbed
so.
2 4 terabytes because I have not wanted to replace my parity drive in Unraid. So I just have a ton of 4 terabytes. I have 5, I guess, now because it's 20 terabytes. Yeah, I have like 6 with the parity drive, and I haven't wanted to upgrade the parity, so I just stick to 4s, and they're so cheap now. It's like, well, why not? And I don't need that big a drive. But you're right, the 8 is probably the sweet spot right now.
8's the sweet spot. 12 is starting to emerge there. 16 is higher end, but within reach.
Yep.
So
Andrew's still saying he's on 1. I've got in my Drobo now. I have a bunch of 1 and 2 terabyte drives in there. That the Drobo is kind of the backup device here. Works just fine. I throw a bunch of those in there. They're still out there. I think price wise, here in the US, I think on eBay I can get the 3 and 4 terabytes for like $50. Mike, do you think that's?
I paid 90 for or 85 for my 4 terabyte.
Okay, but that was new,
brand new. Yeah.
So eBay used, you can like $50.
Well, and I was disappointed because actually one of the drives, it was my first drive to ever go bad in Unraid, just went bad. And I thought it was because I have drives in that Unraid box that are old. And it was actually one of the Seagate NAS drives that I just put in last year.
That.
So I'm gonna.
Don't say that. That's what I run.
So yeah, so I just have it boxed up right now. I'm doing the RMA process and sending it in, but I couldn't wait for the RMA, so I had to order new drives. And I didn't learn my lesson because I actually went with Unraid. They spin the disk down most of the time unless they're being used. So I actually just went with a Seagate compute drive, which is a terrible idea. But so I think the Seagate NAS were even probably about $100 for a 4 terabyte, and right around that same price for a Western Digital Red.
Andrew, what about you? What do you think?
Oh, look, I'm running Iron Wolves. Like I said before, they're a little bit noisy. I'm running the VN022s, which are the earlier models. The VN004, which is a CMR drive, they're meant to be a lot quieter. So, as they fail, I'll replace them with those. The beauty of the Synology, so I can take it from 8 terabyte drives to 12s or whatever the latest size is, and it just takes care of it for me and does all the rebuild on its own.
That's what I love about that and Unraid, all of those where you can just kind of mix and match. And it's amazing how many use cases you can find for old hard drives. Mine are all right here. You can see them all stacked up. And I'm always pulling one of those off to like transfer some data, right? Just it's something there. If you don't have the network available or something, I'm going to take one down. Actually, my brother-in-law and I are building our mother-in-law a new computer for Christmas. I'm going to take one down, load it up with all our old files so we can bring it back up here and move everything over for her. It's always a use case for a terabyte. And some of these are even like 300, 400 gig spinners, which I should just throw out.
Yeah, well, my home server's still, I think it's got 3 250 gig spinners in it. And one of them doesn't. One of them's dodgy. So when I start it, I've got to sit there with the drive and go like that to keep it running.
Tap it, drop it. Remember all the tricks we'd say if you
stick it in the freezer for a couple of hours in a Ziploc bag.
6-inch drop, a freezer in the freezer, all these tricks to unstick a spinner in those days.
Yeah.
Mike, my Unraid, when I reconfigured it because I wanted some drive space, so I took it away from the Unraid box. 800 gig. That's as big. That's as big, and it's made up of 4 laptop drives. So like it's a soup, but you know what? It works.
Hey, it works.
It works really, really well.
And do you have an SSD in there for cache?
I don't. No.
You don't even have. Oh, so it's slow, probably.
It is, and I'm not going to do a lot on it. I just was thinking if we're going to have John back on the program, I can't do that and not have an Unraid box running.
Right. So do you have like any Dockers running on it or anything like that?
Nothing right now.
So you're not okay. Once you experience that, you'll fully go Unraid. You'll be like, okay, I'm putting some big drives in here. Yeah. It's perfect for guys like you and me.
Go ahead. What's Unraid cost these days? Is it subscription model or is it a one-off cost?
One-off cost, which is the best part about it. And they said they're not going to change that. I think it was $60.
That's what Google said about Google Photos, right?
Yeah, but these guys, I don't know. For some reason, I trust them. They let's see, pricing. What are they at currently? So $60 for basic, which is up to 6 drives. 12 drives, $89. unlimited drives, $129. So even if you want the max, $129 for life.
So for your average punter, they only need basic anyway.
For who?
Because your average punter, your average guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
English.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like,
It's that
I'm
Australian.
saying punter. I'm thinking of like a football punter.
Punter.
I told you, I don't understand half of what you say. Most of the time I just shake my head. Okay, that sounds.
Or
good.
nod. Yeah.
Yeah, $59 for that. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Rennie says he still has some Maxter drives in service, and I might have a Maxter sitting in a stack somewhere waiting to be.
Did they get bought by someone, or did they just die?
Seagate bought them.
Yeah, okay.
I think
they bought nearly everyone, didn't they?
Yeah.
Them and Western Digital.
There's only 2 left, right? I think those are the 2.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 that are left. Hey, let's go one more. Let's go one more.
Well, if you were going to buy Flash, what would you buy?
Oh, that's a good. I was gonna get to that after the voicemail. So hold that thought for 1 second. Let me play. Let me play another voicemail. This is Jim Shoemaker.
Hey, Jim. I first remember hearing you on the home server show, and then meeting you at the 2012 meetup. Those meetups were all great. Good times at the Irish pub, fish and chips, good stuff. I started listening to your podcast as soon as I learned about them, and I kept with it. You had a series of excellent co-hosts and guests. I had to get my dose of tech somewhere. It's been really neat to meet some of your family along the way. Congratulations on 10 years, and here's a toast to 10 more.
Oh, here's a toast.
Might as well.
Here's a toast to 10 more. I don't know, you guys. There we go. Good job. Christian SSD. Let's start with you on this as we think about sweet spot. And I'm assuming we're going M.2 or NVMe now, right? We're SSD in that traditional sense is we're moving to those. So Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, 2 terabyte for the solids, both in the classic form and in the NVMe form. It is a little bit harder to find PCIe 4 NVMe's in the 2 terabyte form. For example, the high-end NVMe from Samsung, the 860 there is a 1 terabyte max is where you can find mostly. If you look at the Gigabit Aorus series, you can get up to 2 terabytes, which the bus speeds are about 5,500 megabytes per second on reads and close to 5 on writes. So pretty impressive chip. If you're going to buy new and you're building it into a new computer, I'd make sure you buy something that's PCI 4 at this point. So,
okay, Andrew, your thoughts?
The laptop I'm using at the moment boots off a Western Digital Black, I think it is. And then the data is on a Samsung 1 terabyte. So 512 for the system, terabyte for data. It's my new work machine. I own the data drive. They own the system drive.
What do you think the sweet spot is in that space right now?
Price wise out here, it's a terabyte.
Okay.
And for me, look, I think I'd probably go Crucial or Samsung for the most part.
Yeah,
Western
I think that's kind of the default. Western Digital is making a big play in this space. Their brand is solid there, but yeah, there's a lot of Samsung definitely seems to own it.
Yeah, and Crucial seem to have a much better much better mean time between failure quote. 1.8 million hours versus 1.5, which is significant if you're using it for home automation. So my NUC's got a Crucial in it purely for that reason. Because if it comes true to form, that's another 300,000 hours.
Andrew, with the exception of price for you guys, and it's a little cheaper here in the US than it is in Australia. But in Christian, you say 2 terabytes. Do you think we're to the spot, honestly, for most people, 2 is enough? We used to do an SSD and then a spinner. Now with most things being in the cloud, Christian, is it 2 and that's it? That's all you really need? I mean, are we kind of to that point for most people?
Depends how good your backups are.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It depends how good your restores are.
True.
That's also, the modern day equivalent is you have your boot drive on an NVMe and your data drives as SSDs. And if you look at a lot of the case designs that you've seen in the last year, they're optimized for, hiding your 2.5-inch SSD cards on the back of the motherboard case, and then having your M2s presented on the front with a heat sink or a cover of some kind. So the cases are building that way. If you look at the amount of space they save for spinners, in a mid-range ATX, maybe you get 3 slots for them. I doubt anyone's actually using them, especially if they're going with that SSD layout. Never hurts to have some extra SSDs around, especially if you have, if you want to make backups to different types of, as Andrew points out, different types of things that restore differently, rather than just having multiple backups that get restored by the same program. Like maybe you back up your system one way with, let's just say, Server Essentials, and then you do another backup with just classic Windows systems image, and then maybe your third backup is to cloud if that's for you. So
yeah, I mean, my setup's a little bit different. I think you're totally right on how most people do it, because that's pretty much how I do it. So I run my boot off an NVMe, 500 gigs, and then I have my SSD on the back of the motherboard, and that's where I store the games that I play. And then, but then I still do have a 2 terabyte spinner in here as well, and that is for all of like YouTube video content, raw footage. I still want to have locally on this machine, but I want to throw it somewhere. It doesn't need to be fast at all. And I just had an extra 2 terabyte later on. Honestly, it could be an SSD, but I don't experience any. So that's kind of like the cold storage for me. It's games I haven't played anymore, but if a buddy says, hey, remember when I want to go back and play that old school game we used to play, it's probably still on the hard drive somewhere here, but doesn't need to take up SSD space. I think that's pretty true. It's so funny on backup. I back up my server religiously. This machine could catch fire tomorrow and I could rebuild it in like an hour without a backup. I don't back anything here up. Everything here is like pulled from the server usually. I think that's why. And I might have to re-download some games. But besides that, I have lost, and it's probably bad of me to say that, but on my work, on my main machine down here, not my work machine, I have not found the need. And I have just wiped it and redone it a few times when I've run into something. And it's like, it's so painless now with everything being cloud, whatever cloud is to you. Cloud is your own server. Cloud is off-prem, whatever it is. It's pretty easy to rebuild a computer these days. Probably not for you, Christian. You probably have a lot of mission critical stuff on your main machine. But I think for a lot of, I consider myself a very average guy user for this machine. Even I think for a lot of people, but then again, I say that, but all my stuff is stored on an in-house server. People are probably storing a lot of that stuff on their main machine and not on a server in their house. So I'm probably in a weird spot with being average guy / not average guy.
John says he built an Unraid box intending to transfer everything over. This sounds familiar, which he did, but never got around to decommissioning the Windows Home Server 2011. 9 years, Christian.
Same.
Yeah.
Guilty.
And it sounds a familiar story. Christian, we used to think like the life of an OS was just a couple years, 3-4 years. That seems to be getting stretched out a little bit. Like, I don't know. I could be wrong, but it just kind of seems like I hear a lot of guys running older versions of things. I know we got to worry about patches and stuff, Andrew. This is a little bit of your space.
Don't go there.
But it's just no, right on. But it just seems like OSs can stay around.
Look at Windows 7.
Yeah.
Half the ATMs in the world are still running that bloody operating system.
Right. Yeah. Christian?
Even hardware though, throw an SSD in something that had a spinner, and those machines. This iMac behind me is a 2000. When did I graduate undergrad? 2012 machine. Works great. Use it all the time. This actually runs SiteHound. I can still use the daily driver. All I had to do was put an SSD in there. The hardware is lasting forever. My Unraid server is an i7 3770. Right. I mean, it runs great, and that old motherboard and. I think the hardware is even lasting.
Even cars are lasting longer, right? I mean, the reality is that the way we design, and whether it's designing and building transistors and hardware on a circuit board, or whether it's the architecture and design of operating systems, they're just able to be more resilient and self-healing, particularly in software, certainly in hardware. I mean, one of the biggest stark changes at the 10-year mark for me is look at what a BIOS was 10 years ago to what it is today. Like, are you kidding me? 10 years ago, the types of BIOSes I would look at online were 0.5 megabyte. If you flashed it wrong, you were done. Go buy a new motherboard, or you had all the equipment you needed. If you were lucky to either pull the BIOS chip out of the motherboard, flash back to something that worked and put it back in, if you hadn't damaged the hardware, or you were looking at soldering pins and the whole 9 yards, right? Today, go pick up a new motherboard. Some of these firmware images are 2 gigabytes just for the BIOS. And there's 2 BIOS chips. And if you want to revert back to the previous version, you hit a button on the back of your motherboard and it takes you back and it automatically flashes back over. And good luck reading some of the source code in those, because it's basically an operating system unto itself that boots right from the time you hit the power button. So even at the firmware level, before you even talk about the operating system, it is a vastly different place in software, and the underlying hardware functions are just far more mature.
Christian, BIOS mods still around? You said that, I forgot. We didn't even mention BIOS mods.
Still around. Still lives to tell the tale. I admit it's been some time since I've been active in the community, but it's still out there, still chugging along. And it's amazing the types of old hardware that people are trying to keep running and keep alive. So it definitely serves a valuable purpose.
I hear, Andrew, you said you didn't even want to go into this, so I'll ask your personal opinion on this. And I know, for a guy who supports, you do this day in and day out, and you're supporting me. So of course it's not great that folks are running older hardware, but just when we think about the consumer, our space running server software, it just seems like we can get away with a lot less and still do what we're doing.
Yeah. Look, some of the vulnerabilities particularly in Server 2008. So if you're running Windows Home Server 2011, for example, you really need to have a good hard look at yourself and what you're prepared to lose. It's not so much the risk of having it sitting behind a firewall. If you've got a decent firewall and you never expose it to the internet, who cares? But if you've got stuff on there you don't want to lose, there's some pretty horrible people out there on the internet. And if you've got personal data stored on it, nothing's unable to be cracked, no matter how well you encrypt it.
Yeah.
The encryption software is there because they can break it. That's my slant on it.
I think it's a good warning. I think that's like, it's probably time to upgrade. Jim Shoemaker says, use BIOS mod on my N40L. Thanks again, Christian, for that. Man, it just seemed like we talked a lot about that, and then we did.
Yeah.
That was a hot topic for 12, 18 months, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it was. I remember when we did all the BIOS updates to get the quad-core CPUs running on the HP 485 and 495s, and all those little toasters I have running around are quad-core Xeons, which in comparison to the Celeron D chip that shipped with it, which was single core and couldn't transcode a video if you paid it money to, night and day difference for the cost of a BIOS update and a $60 CPU chip.
I to have your skills to be able to make that sort of stuff work.
Yeah, Christian, that always surprised me about you, Christian, is that there was nothing that was ever too hard. Like, this seems really difficult, and everybody's punting, and Christian's like, I bet I can figure it out.
I'm just a butterfly for chasing problems. I find that as elegant as a game of chess, just infinite outcomes.
But you run towards danger, right? It's it's like a superhero.
Yeah.
I want to play one more voicemail, and then I'm going to ask you three the question: what do you think has changed the most in 10 years? So as we think about all those technologies that we were talking about back in 2010 up to today, 2020, which has changed the most? So let me play this voicemail. Nathaniel sent this to us, and then I'll ask the question. Here we go.
Hello, Jim and Mike and the Home Gadget Geeks family. This is Nathaniel Lindley in Minnesota. I want to thank you for recording and sharing stories with all of us. I appreciate the variety of voices and perspectives over the years. Cheers to you, to learning, to listening, and congratulations on 10 years of the Home Gadget Geeks podcast.
Everybody who did that sent in a voice of mail via our pod page that's available. I had homegadgetgeeks.com working. Then I sent out a tweet to like, hey, leave us a message. I don't know what we did, but we took it down. So it didn't work for a while. If you go to podpage.com/homegadgetgeeks, I think you need to put dashes in there. Home Gadget Geeks. You can leave us a voicemail. This is actually something Mike and I would love to have you guys do on a fairly regular basis. Questions for us, things you want to ask. It's 30 seconds, so it doesn't take a long time. You can just drop in there and leave us a voicemail, and we appreciate that as well. As I go back to the post, let me bring up that original post really quick, and let's just look at it as you guys are kind of thinking. And I think I did this post, Andrew. I think this is before I roped you into making.
Yeah, definitely.
But this week we spend most of the show focusing on Microsoft's Windows Live Essentials 2011. Brian, most recent post on the Live.
My mom still uses that.
Really? Well, you know what? I still use the video.
Yeah, that's what she uses. That's what she uses. She uses the video, and she uses someone else.
I use LiveWriter too. I still use LiveWriter to.
Yeah, it just works.
Yeah, no, it still continues. Now you can't find it anywhere on the web. Like it's not there anymore. I still have it, but because I use it so much. But we talked about Windows Live Essentials, how to set it up, getting started with it. We talked about Skype. Remember those days? Blogger and WordPress, Dropbox.
Pigeon. Wow.
Yeah. Christian, let's start with you. As you think about 10 years ago, and then you think about today, what do you think's changed the most? And you can define that however you want. I was going to say better or worse, but what do you think's had the most change? What's got the most delta in there?
Consumerism, particularly in the enthusiast space, right? Like the things that excite us are very different. And actually, if you think about even the rebranding of this show from Home Tech to Home Gadget, right? It was the introduction of the era of gadgets that suddenly lit consumers up into a different way of experiencing computers, right? And now, I remember in the early days of Home Tech where we'd have these royal crusades about whether or not anyone would buy a phablet for a phone. And now everyone has one, right? And it's a computing device. And there's plenty of people who would be just as happy to have a phone and not a computer because to them, it's the same thing. So really, I think the presentation of computing in the technology industry, and I loosely call it ubiquitous computing, right? Regardless of the platform or the gadget or the thing, the major difference from 10 years ago till now is that it's very cheap, ineffective, and accessible to have any type of consumer product have an IP address, a network connectivity of some kind or fashion, and a compute mechanism. And 10 years ago, we just weren't at a point where things were reliable enough at that price point to make it worthwhile. Infrastructure was still, budding by comparison to what it is today. I mean, there is so much more internet infrastructure that powers what we can do today that we don't even think about it. And so the next gadget or the next app or the next whatever can pop up in weeks in comparison to the years it would have taken if you had started in 2010 for something like that. So
yeah, that falls. I was going to say accessibility, right? Like if you think of everything that has changed, well, personally for me, I was all Mac and then I came on this show and now I have like an old Mac and an iPhone. That's the only Mac products I have in my house. And I was supposed to be the Mac guy coming into this. So personally, it's been operating systems of choice for me is now Windows and Linux, but accessibility for everyone. I mean, if you think about back then, like the dream was to, someone mentioned in chat streaming, right? Access to live streams, access to video. Yeah, it was all there, but just like how much better it's gotten. Access to, think about, you walk around with access to your entire photo library in your pocket. Like you can access every single photo. Yeah, your content, all your personal photos, which is searchable via AI. And I can say, show me all pictures of my dog, and it shows me all the way back to the beginning of time, all my photos. Video games, you can now, with all the Stadia and Xbox, you can stream from your console to your phone anywhere in the world. I can play my video games from my console. Like that type of accessibility is crazy. And I think even 10 years ago, which isn't that long ago, 10 years ago, I think I was a freshman or sophomore in college. And I mean, that was right as I was starting to create my YouTube account. So I can remember the things that excited me. Like Dropbox was like big for me back then. I think my first video on YouTube was like Dropbox tutorial, and how people didn't get that like your files could sync all to all your different devices, and how would that work? Things like that for the average person, right? The tech people knew all about that. But for the average people, that was still new to them. So accessibility is probably my biggest focus in the last 10 years.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Mike. I think that's one I hadn't thought of in that. Andrew, what about you? What do you think?
I sort of look at it. Probably, I agree with those guys. I would have added Internet of Things as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every automation's becoming so accessible. You know, you buy a $30 smart switch from the hardware store, plug it in, point a Raspberry Pi at it for another $30-40, and you can turn your lights off and on. You can put your blinds up and down depending on, you know, where the sun is in its azimuth across the sky during the day, what your temperatures are doing in your room. You know, again, the sky's the limit to what you can do. You know, basically, or simply what we're doing here is, you know, we control temperature based on whether we're home or heading towards home or away from home, and you know, just some automated lights and stuff like that. But some of the stuff people are doing with, you know, very cost affordable home automation is amazing. And then it ties into everything. You know, you can tie it into your phone, you can tie it into, you know, a tablet, you know, double-sided taped onto a wall, or voice control. You know, look at Alexa and the Google Home ecosystem. You know, whoever thought that you'd be turning on your TV and changing channel by talking to a gadget, or your remote control for that matter. Yeah, the new LG TV. Turn on the TV to channel 7.
I don't know if we saw that coming as we were talking about some of these early things. I don't know if we saw.
Oh, never.
Because remember, we used to rip really hard on the voice assistants. Like,
oh yeah. Remember how bad Cortana was?
Mm-hmm.
How bad and still is Siri, right?
Yeah.
Although,
yeah, I mean, Siri. Yeah.
Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, and all you Apple fanboys have got Siri.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean, and it's gotten better, but it's definitely. I'm so used to living in the Amazon ecosystem, and I mean everything in our house is A-Lady enabled, and we use A-Lady for everything. The kids come to. I hear them in the mornings because when Hannah leaves, the kids come to the basement because they get a little playtime before I'm kind of wanting them to get ready, and they come down. Hey, A-Lady, turn on the basement lights, and my kid's 4. And like that just makes sense to him. Like that just clicks. And then the little one, the 3-year-old, was like, "You got it. You made it work. You got it." Like they're all really happy when it works because he can enunciate well enough now that she understands him. Yeah, you're right. The Internet of Things has been a massive change. There are still people like my mom is someone who will not allow those devices in her home
because they're listening, right?
That, I mean, yeah, that, and just like my home is my spot. Like she doesn't want security cameras because, you know, especially the cloud ones. I mean, she's just not about, this is my safe place, and you bring those in, and they're listening, or more data you can give to people. So, and she's not even a tin hat person at all. She's just like, no, I've lived without it my whole life. I'm good. Like, I don't need it. Yeah. And I'm like, how do you live without it? It's everything in our house. There's not a thing that isn't connected to that device.
Yeah. Well, both my kids have got, you know, the little Lenovo Google Assistant enabled alarm clock. You know, first thing they do in the morning, you hear them. You know, Google, what's the weather today? You know, or Google, play some song that I've got no interest in hearing, and you know, as long as it stays in their bedroom, I don't care. So
yeah,
you know, and it's second nature to them.
It is, which is interesting watching them grow up in that time.
It continues to get better. You know, it's creepy. So if you use use the A-Lady, sorry, if you use the A-Lady, go into the app for her, and then there's an area, I think you go into settings and then voice training, and it will play back some of the audio that you've recorded in there to say, who is this? Because it's trying to learn you and the other members of the family. It's trying to learn who those people are. And then listen to the way you do these commands. It's super funny because sometimes in the morning I whisper to it. What time is it? And it'll tell me in a whisper. It'll tell me back, but it records that, right? And man, you start listening to those things, and we sound awful. Like we must be asking this thing. Sarah must still be half asleep because she was like, "What's the weather today?"
Also, have you got one in the bedroom?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I refuse to have one in the bedroom.
Yeah, it's probably a good call. But
I have one in my bathroom and my bedroom. There is no place to
things I don't need being heard in the bedroom.
Yeah. I was going to try to go. I was thinking along these lines. What was different 10 years ago? And the average guy.tv looked totally different 10 years ago. Christian, remember the graphic you gave me? It was this blue. I will never forget it. It was this blue picture of a building with
pretty awful. Pretty awful.
We just threw it up there. It was fine. So I go into the Wayback Machine, and the Wayback Machine says, sorry, this URL has been excluded from the Wayback Machine. Is that possible? Could I have been blacklisted from the Wayback Machine? I'm gonna have to dig into this kind of thing. This is
I may have done something with Wayback at some point from like a.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm trying to remember what I did. I think I did delist a whole bunch of stuff back then.
Saving you from yourself, Jim.
Well, I have a revised version of it on Maple Grove Partners, so I can go back to those. It was fun to see the old styling as a part of it. I think my thing in 10 years as we think about it, and maybe it's not the biggest change overall, but just in the way we do blogging and podcasting. Like it has, I think about what's available to us today. The ability to connect the four of us together. Mike and I are close, but Christian, you're across country. Andrew, you're on the other side of the world. In the ease at which we're able to do it, and the cost at which we're able to do this. I mean, I've been doing it for free on StreamYard for I don't know, since StreamYard started. Was doing it free on Google Hangouts before that. I just bought the $10 plan for StreamYard because it got me some more hours, and I want to do some more live streaming of the smoker, the grill. And so it's like, I was limited by 20 on the free plan. I thought, for $10 they offered a plan for Black Friday. I think back to the days of when we'd cobble together Ustream, or we'd cobble together
Hangouts and Skype and some other plugin to make it all work.
Yeah.
Christian, I've got Christian and me and Gary talking on Skype in, I think, via Ustream in those days, Christian. I think that was just a couple years in.
Yep.
That's when Gary was making sure you and I were okay for Christian to be talking to.
I think it was a big interview. Is what I was like, can you hang out? Really hang out?
I think I ate half of my seat that day.
It was always great having Gary on the show. And so Gary, I know you're listening, so I appreciate it. Anytime
he's only human, of course he's listening.
He's listening. He doesn't jump in the chat room, but I know he's listening. So Gary was great on the show at those days. But then even think about, blogging on completely different from the traditional blog, then on to Medium, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And then today, blogging really, it's Facebook and Instagram are the blogging platforms, I think, of what people are using today to do that, especially Instagram. How many of you are who's not on, or I should say, who is on Instagram with you guys? Are all three of you on?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
I don't actively put content on it. I'm a consumer, but
well, and it's made for me, especially as a guy. I think blogs before had more of a lean towards women for blogging, and there were a bunch of guy blogs out there too. But I think for me, Instagram was like a really good way. First of all, I love consuming video and photo content, but like feed people's stories. Like I follow a bunch of hunting channels and tactical channels I really like, ham radio channels, technology channels, and it's almost like you get vlogs in like little mini forums. And my wife, I don't think she's ever read a blog in her life. Maybe when we were having kids and she was first trying to read some mommy blogs, but she follows a ton of Instagram influencers, whatever you want to call them. And they're smaller people, even local people to hear. And, all the fashion stuff. And that's how she consumes all of her quote unquote, like blog style content is through Instagram stories. That's it.
Well, and I'm finding the YouTubers are on Instagram first. So they do their live stuff is kind of on Instagram, and then they're recording whatever they're doing. Their
the polished stuff is on YouTube, right? The behind the scenes is
yeah. I see. So
and Snapchat died, didn't it?
I don't know if it's dead, but it's
that's my main source of communication, actually.
See, I have never looked at a Snapchat or a TikTok.
Really? I think it all depends on where your friends are at. So for me,
maybe
for some reason, that took off in college. Well,
I'm older than you.
No, you're not. In college, the Snapchat got its rise, and me and all my friends just got on it, and we've never left it. So and even my mother-in-law, my parents aren't on any social media, so it's texting or calling them or FaceTime.
Dude, I left college 35 years ago.
Okay, well, but I think so. There's definitely still a community around Snapchat. I think it's just you had to have used that as a primary communication at some point, and it just happened to be ours, and we've stayed on it.
Yeah.
No,
that's that.
I don't think I've texted my friends in a very long time.
Yeah,
my four, I call my four like main friends in college. My four roommates I had all through college. We all just use Snapchat for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, see, all my friends, we're all WhatsApp.
Okay.
Well, and WhatsApp in Asia in particular is very, very strong in your.
And I've never even used WhatsApp.
Nobody uses it in the United States. It's not
but then WhatsApp's fully encrypted. They guarantee that no one's going to be able to get your content.
Right on.
Well, my buddy uses it with his large extended family because they're all on different platforms. All of my friends have iPhones, so we could still use iMessage. But all of his family, they use WhatsApp because some of them don't have Facebook, but they're all willing to. The ones that don't have Facebook are willing to get WhatsApp because of the encrypted. They trust it more than they would trust like a Facebook, and so that's why they use WhatsApp. I think it's just all the different circles have different needs.
It's ironic given the owner that they trust. It's ironic they trust it more than Facebook given who owns it.
Yeah.
Christian, would you have anything for that?
I don't know. The whole social sphere is continuing to, I think, bifurcate and not really get any clearer. I think when Facebook first came out, it was seen as revolutionary. Now I think it's pretty much an afterthought in many of the younger age groups, and a lot of the older demographics are now starting to discover it like it's brand new. It's very confusing. There's a lot of migratory patterns and people picking up and dumping platforms. I think you've seen a lot of change in how platforms try to position themselves, regulate themselves, make everybody happy and make no one happy as a result. I'm not yet totally convinced that social media is somewhat of a failed experiment. In some ways, I define social media very narrowly. I define it as that profile, that thing you're maintaining, that communication mechanism. Like, to me, social media is a distinct category from like a chat application or a video call, right? And so I think, Snapchat's such a perfect example, right? Because rather than maintaining this, long thought out profile where you can scroll back into a timeline to the beginning and everything is there to save for life. Well, Snapchat is, I take a picture, I send it to people. Whoever wants to save it, they save it. 3 years from now, no one's going to remember. No one's going to care, whatever, right? And a lot of the things that have become more popular in the last 2 to 3 years are these temporary ephemeral things like TikTok videos or whatever, right? So
Instagram stories even, right? They're 24 hours. You have 24 hours to watch it. After that, it's gone.
Yep. And so I'm convinced that part of the reason why social media is innovating so quickly or so rapidly is because it's still trying to figure out what the heck it is. And so it's to me, it started something. There have been good outshoots of it, but the main product of social media is like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, for me, it kind of clicks of what people loved about it before is that it connected you with people you might not always talk to. right? At least that was for me, right? Social media was, hey, I never talked to the kids, my buddy Sweetcar, who grew up here in Omaha, and we grew up all as kids, and then I moved away, and I never talked to him again. And when Facebook came out, we connected on there, and I was like, oh, cool, I could see him. And now that's just kind of a norm, right? Everyone is connected, but you don't need all the extra things that it came along with, seeing their whole history, what's their current job title, that stuff doesn't matter anymore, right? Maybe it's just more of just an instant connectivity style.
Damn, I need to prune my Facebook profile in.
It's funny though, because at least for me, maybe I'm weird. I am weird, but I would much rather go talk and meet people in an enthusiast form and a topic or I'm researching or a subject matter, right? Like if you think about one of the most successful social media experiments personally for me has been watching the average guy migrate to Discord. Because I can follow the conversations, I can get content. It's so much easier to digest than anything that social media. And I think part of it is because it is a weird instant message version of what forum boards were. Before people flocked to free social media, it was webmasters hosting message boards where people would come in and post, or oh my gosh, mailing list servers, right? Like if you want to go watch pure entertainment, just subscribe to the public Linux mail list and watch Linus Torvalds tear someone a new one. I mean, and he's tearing, really senior engineers at these top companies, and it's free entertainment. But yeah, you could go sign up and reply, and you could have it
so well.
yeah. And so it's like that to me is much more of the old school social media that still has a very strong undercurrent in how people connect online today. So
that's a great point. I love the Discord movement. Whatever that is, keep that going. Cause I love living in Discord when it's my social time, right? I have it up on my computer whenever I'm down here. I have a bunch of different servers I'm a part of, and it's great. I love it. You can stay just as injected as you want to be, right? You can dip in, dip out, and always be able to go back and kind of see what the conversation was. I love it.
Andrew, what is ISCA?
ISCA was a online bulletin board system run by one of the unis in the States. Let me quickly Google it because the university's escaping me.
While you're looking that up, if you want to join us in
University of Iowa.
Oh, yeah, just down the street from me. If you want to join our Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Okay, keep going, Andrew.
Yeah, and this thing was run off a bulletin board system called Citadel. And it was rooms and rooms and rooms and rooms and thousands of people logged in at any given time from all over the world. This was early 90s, mind you, late 80s, early 90s. All the university kids used it. It was hip. And I met people all over the world. I traveled to stay with people and meet people that I met on it.
Yeah. What year?
I started using it in 89.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Super cool. Well, it's certainly social's come a long way in the 10 years we've been doing this. I don't think, Facebook was super young in 2010. I was going to go back and look through, even if it was, I might have wrote, I might or may not. I'll say I did or I didn't, kind of based on who's asking. But I wrote an article that Facebook is dead in 2012.
I remember you writing that
right after Christmas, and I had 5 or 6 really good points of why this was just a flash in the pan, and now it's gone. Well, okay, I was wrong. So
it didn't even have its own movie at that stage.
Yeah, no, it didn't have anything at that stage. Nobody even knew who Mark Zuckerberg was, right? We were just kind of okay. I want to wrap this with one quick segment on something I found interesting. So, Mike, I'll run this by you, and this is for the real-time discussion, things that are going on actively in Jim's world. So, Mike, you and I bought these D-Link cameras a couple years ago, maybe. What's the resolution on these things? Do you remember?
It's 720.
720. Yeah. Not bad. Wi-Fi enabled.
No, not bad.
Put them on. They have an app. You can get them connected. I had one at the front door. So until we got one of those package boxes that Paul Breren talked me into, This has sat at the front door monitoring when people drop off boxes. We have a Ring cam out there as well, so it's kind of double duty. Then I bought another one and put it in the back window, and it watched the whole backyard. So that was kind of these two cameras going on. And we brought it in through Sighthound, and they worked pretty well for a while. And then I started having internet problems here at the house, and the Bitdefender box was struggling with some things. And then I noticed this last weekend, the Ring cameras were starting to struggle with some things. So I called Ring, and you'd think, okay, Amazon owns Ring now, and you'd think, oh, okay, maybe the service is, maybe I'm going to get lost in the shuffle somewhere because it's so big. No, I called them. I started with chat, then I called, got this nice gal who was super nice to me and like some really great customer service. Struggled with some of the things she said because they weren't true, but in the midst of it, got this really good customer service person that's helping me. And I'm watching Mike, I'm watching Sighthound on my computer while we're trying to troubleshoot these Ring. They got really flaky on me. They were dropping out. They weren't recording the Ring cams. They were recording, but it was all black. They were kind of dropping their signal back and forth.
And just to clarify, you don't bring Ring into Sighthound because they can't.
I do not.
Right?
No.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So there's actually a Windows app for Ring that I use. So I was watching it on there, and then I was watching Sighthound. And I had this thought about an hour into the call with Ring. It's like, I wonder if those dealing cameras are causing problems, because she was trying to tell me how when you're in the Ring app, they give you it's an RSSI. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's kind of a Wi-Fi signal string, right? And she was saying like, oh, there could be other devices that are affecting it, and so the score isn't an absolute score, but it just kind of tells you how much interference there is. And we look for a score of about 50. 40's great. I said, Wi-Fi interference. I don't know what made me think of it, but I thought, I wonder if these things are causing any interference on my Wi-Fi, right? So yeah. I said to her, give me a second. I'm going to go unplug my dealing devices. She stayed on the line with me. It was great. Unplugged them. Almost immediately, everything on the Ring network started working. Like stuff I'd had problems with before, keeping the chime. I have a Ring chime as well, that a doorbell for it. Working perfectly. Like now my Ring is almost in real time. Like I can almost go to it and watch in real time what's going on. I think now I got some troubleshooting to do, Mike, but
yeah, because you can turn the Wi-Fi on those on, like it broadcasts its own Wi-Fi network.
Yeah.
And you can turn that off.
I'll have to check into that.
Yeah, and I bet that was maybe on the same channel as whatever your Wi-Fi is in your home. Could have been causing some interference there if the Wi-Fi was putting out. So, because I haven't had that issue.
Okay.
Then again, I only have one, and it's actually outside on my back patio, so it's far away from everything. So maybe it's not. Mm-hmm. But then again, who knows? Maybe I unplug it, and all of a sudden everything gets faster.
Well, it was incredible. So, one of those local events where I thought, well, okay, maybe I don't need these. Sell them on eBay for $5, or maybe someone in the Home Gadget Geeks network here would like me to send them to them. I've got two. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. I think I'm going to go 100% Ring, just to be honest, on this. I'm going to install a stick up or something in my backyard and just let that thing, and maybe even a solar thing on, let it do its thing. But yeah, Mike, it was just crazy. As soon as I unplugged them, like instant change in the network.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty cool. So if you want to try out a couple, these are 720. They're used. I'll send them to you. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and love to maybe ship them off your way. Andrew, Christian, thanks for jumping in tonight. Good to have you guys back on this thing, and good to kind of relive some memories, right? I mean,
you have to get me back more often. I'll have a beer next time.
Okay.
I'll go and buy some. I'll go buy some just to keep Mike happy.
Yeah. No, right on. Well, Andrew, I didn't ditch you on purpose.
No, I got it. I had kids.
Yeah, you had kids. To be clear, he had children. Children ruin. Christian, listen carefully.
Your life.
Listen carefully, Christian. Children ruin everything. Okay.
No, just your life.
Good thing I have earbuds then.
If you ever
Yeah.
Mike,
Shortly after marriage, your children will ruin your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Andrew and I were talking about this in the pre-show. Jim, I think you were up getting a drink, and I was like, because he was saying, I was like, well, when were you on? He's like, yeah, then I had kids. I'm like, yeah, I know. I said, as soon as my kids are getting into sports and stuff, I just know Thursday nights are going to instantly be like, yeah, it's already getting tough because they don't go to bed as early as they used to. So I hear them upstairs, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Well, Andrew, maybe this is your entrance back in. Wieger has to bail.
Rotate out, right?
You haven't even asked me about the solar panels on my roof yet. I mean, I'm disappointed.
No, that's true. No, I'll tell you what. We'll do a whole show on that. I'll bring you back in.
No one could put up with me driveling on about that for an hour.
Well, maybe not the whole show then. Maybe we just do a partial. We kind of do a partial show on it. Christian, certainly, I mean, your life has changed pretty drastically. Graduated from school, got married. We followed you a little bit through Cyber Frontier, so not quite as shocking, but a lot of things have changed for you as well.
Definitely. It's a little bit of a time machine warp, and going back and watching shows from 10 years ago is a stark reminder of that. So,
Andrew, Ben says he'd love to hear a show about your solar panels.
God, poor bastards.
We talked about that. I love solar. I love it. I love it myself here. So we'll get you back in. Oh, and maybe we'll come up with we'll kind of mix and match it. Have you?
We'll do a bit of automation, and I can show people how ignorant I am about my own home automation system.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's a lot to do in keeping. Christian, you're in this mode right now. Brand new place. Figuring out all the tech, right? That you want to.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's a constant struggle. And then on top of that, this current machine I'm on is also exceeded its 10-year anniversary. This OS is an upgraded version of Windows 10 from an original image of Windows 7 that I built in 2009. And so it's fundamentally been the same hardware now for 10 years or so. So I'm building my next decade worthy machine to carry into battle, and even that, just finding parts has been brutal.
Yeah. Well, now is not a good time to buy a GPU. Let's just be really clear.
I'm sorry I did it today. So it's great time.
Really? You found one.
Yeah, that's a long story. I got a last minute pre-order to be taken. So
yeah, everything is nuts right now. But to my point, Christian, like the studio PC here is not that old. I think I built this thing. I mean, it's old. I think I built this thing in 2014, and it's 6 years later. And the other day I was like, maybe I'll upgrade it. And then I started looking at things, and I'm like, maybe I won't. It still works. It's still fast. It still does a lot of great stuff. I put 16 gig of RAM in it when I built it. By today's standards, it's okay still. Like, you can still kind of get away with it. I can max it out, by the way, but you start thinking, okay, well, maybe this is okay for a while. Didn't we call that the flamethrower or something? Is that the one I'm talking about?
Yep. And that's the one I'm still running.
Back in the it's so crazy. 10 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. No run on. Well, okay. A couple reminders on our way out. One is don't forget, if you want to join us on Patreon, and many of you maybe haven't decided to do that. We got a $5 plan. In 2021, we got some Patreon kind of only stuff. We did 2 meetups here at the end of this year. I'll be scheduling one for January, kind of get access to the full version of this on Patreon if you want to do it. And it's just a nice thing to do. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon if you want to support us. We mentioned the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord if you want to join us there. Contact the show. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv if you got content ideas or you want solar back on the show with Andrew Morris. We're bringing solar back. We're going to make solar sexy again, Andrew.
Never stopped.
Just a reminder, the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media, is hosted by MapleGrovePartners.com. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. That guy, if you're watching the video, that guy right down there. We know the guy. Here on Home Gadget Geeks. If you want to start if you want to start a site or you got some kind of special need, just let Christian know. He can do just about anything. So head out to MapleGrovePartners.com and get something started today. While you're at it, sign up for a new domain on Hover, theaverageguy.tv/hover. Get $2 off your first domain. Support the show while you're doing it. And again, it's just a nice thing to do, and we appreciate it when you do that as well. theaverageguy.tv/hover. We are live for the next 10 years. Well, not Mike Wieger, because he just said he's leaving. But we are live.
He's got kids.
It's inevitable, Mike. It's inevitable.
Not yet. I'm going to hold off as long as possible.
Andrew, get your co-hosting responsibilities.
Get my hat back on.
Get ready. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Thanks for coming out for the special 10-year anniversary party. I hope you found it helpful and useful, and a little bit of reminiscing and a little bit of congratulatory backslapping and a little bit of some new stuff as well. Always good to have everybody back. Thanks to everybody who joined us in the chat room. If you didn't get a chance to do it, come out and join us live some Thursday night. We'd love to have you out as well. With that, we'll say goodbye.